fired from the company he built. That's Steve Jobs' story in a nutshell. Talk about a wild ride. Welcome to Xul Podcast, Shooting the Reality. I'm James Carroll.
And I'm Emily Laura.
Today we're diving deep into the life of Steve Jobs, the man behind Apple, and exploring how this unconventional path led to a whole tech revolution. I mean, you hear Steve Jobs and you think Apple, right? But where did it all actually begin?
His story starts in '55 in San Francisco, given up for adoption. He ends up with Paul and Clara Jobs in Mountain View. And this is key. This wasn't just any neighborhood. It was like the heart of what would become Silicon Valley.
So almost like destiny, right?
Right. Paul Jobs was a machinist and had this workshop in their garage. It basically became young Steve's playground.
Yeah.
He instilled in Steve this love of tinkering, this hands-on approach that you can still see in Apple's design philosophy even today.
That's pretty amazing. So the seeds of Apple were planted right there in that garage. But school wasn't exactly a smooth ride for Jobs, was it?
Not really. He was brilliant.
Yeah.
But also a bit of a rebel. Skipped grades, got into trouble, even suspended a few times.
Oh, wow.
He was bored, restless, really craving something to ignite his passion,
I think a lot of us can probably relate to that feeling in school.
Oh, yeah.
So what was the turning point for him?
Well, in fourth grade, a teacher actually bribed him with $5 to finish a workbook.
Wow, really?
It sounds crazy. But Jobs later said he learned more that year than any other in school. It really shows you the impact a good teacher can have, finding a way to engage even the most challenging students.
Yeah, it's a good reminder that even unconventional methods can sometimes work wonders.
Yeah.
But even with all that intelligence, high school was still kind of mixed for him, right? Didn't quite fit in with those typical cliques.
Exactly. He wasn't just a nerd or a hippie. He was his own blend.
Yeah.
Which, I think really contributed to his later success. And during this time, he met Steve Wozniak. Or was, as everyone knows him,
Yeah.
a fellow electronics enthusiast. Would become his lifelong friend and, of course, Apple's co-founder.
Right.
Their shared passion for technology really took off in those years.
And speaking of sparking passions, Jobs' interest in electronics went into overdrive thanks to a neighbor. Worked at Hewlett-Packard.
Oh, yeah.
Imagine that, getting to tinker in an HP engineer's garage workshop.
It gets even better.
Really?
Jobs approached William Hewlett himself, the president of HP, asking for parts for a school project. Pretty bold, right?
Very bold.
But Hewlett was so impressed with Jobs' initiative that he gave him the parts and offered him a summer internship at HP.
Talk about taking initiative.
Yeah.
There's a lesson for all of us.
Yeah.
Jobs clearly knew what he wanted, even when it came to college. He set his sights on Reed College, this prestigious liberal arts school, even though his parents wanted him to choose a more affordable option.
Yeah, that decision speaks volumes about his independent spirit.
Right.
Reed exposed him to art, literature, philosophy, all of which would later influence Apple's design aesthetic.
And even though he dropped out after one semester, it wasn't a wasted experience. This is where the famous calligraphy class comes in.
Yeah.
He credits that class with inspiring the Mac's beautiful typography.
It wasn't just about pretty fonts, though. He was fascinated by the spacing,
Okay.
the different font weights, the overall artistic sensibility of calligraphy. He brought that attention to detail to the Mac. He understood that aesthetics matter, even in tech.
That's so true, even today, right? I mean, we're all drawn to apps and websites that look good, that feel visually appealing.
Absolutely. It's all part of the experience.
It's part of the user experience, yeah.
Jobs understood tech isn't just about functionality. It's about how it makes you feel.
And let's not forget about the blue boxes.
Oh, yeah.
Those devices Jobs and was built to make free long-distance calls. Technically illegal.
Right.
But it showed their early entrepreneurial spirit.
Absolutely.
And their knack for bending technology to their will.
It shows their willingness to challenge the status quo, to take risks, which would become, hallmarks of their approach. Jobs even said if it weren't for those blue boxes, there'd be no Apple. It was their first taste of disrupting an industry.
So from tinkering in garages to bending the rules with blue boxes, Jobs' early life was like a whirlwind of experiences.
Yeah.
He even spent time in India exploring spirituality.
Right.
And worked at Atari, the video game company. It's like all these seemingly random events were shaping him for what was to come.
You're absolutely right. And we can't forget about his personal life. Alongside his professional journey, he was also grappling with fatherhood, initially denying paternity of his daughter Lisa with Chris Ann Brennan.
Right. That's an important part of the story.
Yeah.
This complex relationship would deeply affect his life and his work, as we'll see later on.
Right.
It's clear Steve Jobs was a man of contradictions. And as we delve deeper into the rise of Apple, we'll see how those contradictions fueled his success and ultimately led to some of the most iconic products in history.
So we've got this young Steve Jobs, overflowing with ambition, determined to make technology accessible and beautiful. But even geniuses need a team.
Right. And that's where Steve Wozniak comes in, the
Yeah.
tech wizard behind the Apple I computer.
Exactly. And let's not forget Ronald Wayne. He was there at the very beginning, too, although he unfortunately bowed out early.
Yeah, talk about missing out. Wayne sold his 10% stake for like $800.
Can you imagine? But even with Woz's brilliance and Jobs' drive, they needed more than just passion. They were literally scrapping for parts, selling personal belongings like Jobs' VW bus and Woz's beloved HP calculator. And then they met Mike Markula. He was the angel investor that changed everything.
Markula seems like the unsung hero of this whole thing.
Yeah.
Not only providing crucial funding, but he brought, business smarts to the table, which Apple desperately needed at that time.
Yeah, he was instrumental in shaping Apple's early success. Even Wozniak himself has said that Markula deserves more credit than he does for Apple's success.
It's amazing how partnerships can make or break a company, especially in those early stages. And speaking of partnerships, this period also marks a rekindled romance for Jobs with Chrisanne Brennan. Amidst launching Apple, they kind of fell back in love.
It just goes to show, right? Even in the middle of a tech revolution, life goes on. They even lived together near the Apple office. Brennan even worked in the shipping department for a while. But their relationship was far from simple, especially with the arrival of their daughter, Lisa.
Right. And this is where things get really complicated. Jobs initially denied paternity, which must have been incredibly difficult for Brennan. This complex relationship would have a huge impact on Jobs, both personally and professionally. It even influenced the naming of one of Apple's early computers.
Yeah, you're right. But let's get back to the tech for a minute. The Apple II, that was a game changer. It was the first personal computer to feature a typewriter-style keyboard and the ability to connect to a TV, basically the blueprint for every computer we use today.
Yeah, it's hard to imagine now, but before the Apple II, most computers were just boxes with flashing lights and confusing interfaces. Jobs insisted on a sleek design, intuitive functionality, making the Apple II accessible to a wider audience. It wasn't just a machine for hobbyists anymore. It was becoming mainstream.
Exactly. Jobs had this incredible knack for understanding what people wanted before they even knew it themselves. He saw beyond just the technical specs. He understood that design and user experience were just as important. He wanted Apple products to be beautiful, intuitive, even desirable. And the Apple II was a huge step in that direction.
And its success led to one of the most iconic IPOs in history. At just 25 years old, Steve Jobs became a multimillionaire, proving to the world that personal computers were here to stay.
Yeah, Jobs' vision was really starting to take shape. He was obsessed with details, from the design of the products to the packaging they came in. He wanted everything about the Apple experience to be sleek, elegant, and unforgettable.
It's funny, his signature look, the black turtleneck, jeans, New Balance sneakers, it became almost like a uniform for the tech world, a symbol of his minimalist aesthetic, his focus on the essentials. But even with all this success, tensions were brewing within Apple. Jobs and John Sculley, the CEO he'd recruited from Pepsi, began clashing over the direction of the company.
Yeah, their visions for Apple were fundamentally different. Sculley, with his marketing background, was more pragmatic. He focused on appealing to a wider market with products like the Apple II, ensuring profitability. Jobs, on the other hand, he was the ultimate visionary. He was fixated on the Macintosh, a revolutionary computer with a graphical user interface.
Now, for someone who wasn't around back then, what exactly is a graphical user interface? It's hard to imagine computers without them now.
Right. Well, before GUIs, interacting with a computer meant typing in complex commands. It was intimidating for most people. The Macintosh, however, used icons, windows, and a mouse to make it much more user-friendly. It was a groundbreaking concept. Jobs was convinced it was the future of computing.
So what caused the big rift between Jobs and Sculley?
Well, the Macintosh, despite its revolutionary tech, didn't meet sales expectations. Jobs wanted to lower the price to make it more accessible. Sculley disagreed. He felt it would undermine the Mac's image. It became a power struggle for control of the company, and the board sided with Sculley.
Wow, so Jobs was actually pushed out of his own company.
Yes. In 1985, he was stripped of his duties and forced to resign from Apple. It was a crushing blow for Jobs, who had poured his heart and soul into the company. But this wasn't the end of his story.
Not by a long shot. In true Steve Jobs fashion, he didn't stay down for long. What happened next?
He starts 2 new ventures.
2.
Yeah. One was Nexty,
Oh.
like a high-end computer company targeting academia and businesses.
Yeah.
It didn't achieve the, widespread success of Apple,
Right.
but its technology, particularly its operating system,
Okay.
would later play a crucial role in Apple's revival.
Like planting a seed that blooms years later.
Yeah, it's kind of poetic.
Yeah.
But it was his other venture, Pixar.
Yeah, it really captured the world's imagination.
Absolutely. Jobs saw the potential of computer animation early on
Yeah.
and invested in this small, struggling studio.
Yeah, and under his guidance,
Right.
and with people like John Lasseter, Pixar became a creative powerhouse.
Yeah.
Producing groundbreaking films like
Yeah.
Toy Story.
Toy Story wasn't just a hit. It was a phenomenon.
Oh, wow.
It was the first fully computer animated feature film.
Right.
It revolutionized the industry.
It did.
But amidst these professional triumphs,
Yeah.
Jobs was undergoing a personal transformation too.
Yeah, this period was a time of reflection
Right.
and reconciliation for him.
Mm-hmm.
He reconnected with his biological family,
Yeah.
including his sister, Mona Simpson,
Right.
who became a really close confidant.
Okay.
He also reconnected with his daughter, Lisa,
Mm.
forming a strong bond with her.
It's like those years away from Apple allowed him to grow, to confront his past and really embrace family. Yeah. And these personal changes coincided with a turning point for Apple too.
Oh, how so?
By the mid-90s, Apple was struggling. Their products were losing ground to cheaper Windows-based PCs.
Right.
The
Yeah.
company needed a spark.
Yeah.
A vision.
To guide them back.
Yeah, and who better to provide that vision than the man who started it all?
It's like a movie. 1996. Apple acquires NXT, bringing Steve Jobs back to the company he founded.
And it wasn't just a homecoming, it was
Yeah.
a strategic masterstroke. NXT's operating system
Yeah.
became the basis for Apple's future operating systems.
The macOS we use today.
Exactly.
Talk about a comeback story. But Jobs wasn't content with just reviving Apple. He
No,
wanted to revolutionize it again.
he took charge immediately.
Yeah.
Streamlining the product line.
Okay.
Focusing on a core set of products that were beautiful and functional.
Right.
He had this company-wide meeting
Oh, really?
where he challenged employees to tell him what was wrong with Apple. And his diagnosis, the products suck. There's no sex in them anymore.
Classic Jobs. Blunt but effective.
It was. He wanted to re-inject Apple with passion and innovation.
Yeah.
And the iMac, with its colorful, translucent design, was the embodiment of this new vision.
Yeah.
It was a radical departure from the beige boxes that were everywhere.
Yeah.
It signaled a new era for Apple.
The iMac wasn't just about looks, though.
Yeah.
It was a powerful machine.
It was.
It showcased Apple's commitment to integrating hardware and software.
Right.
Jobs understood that controlling the whole user experience
Yeah.
was key to creating great products.
Yeah.
But maybe his most surprising move was partnering with Microsoft.
It was a strategic alliance.
Yeah.
Many saw it as a betrayal.
Right.
But Jobs was pragmatic.
Okay.
He secured a $150 million investment
Wow.
from Microsoft
Okay.
and a commitment to develop Microsoft Office for Mac,
Oh, wow.
essentially ending the Mac versus PC war.
Yeah.
This allowed Apple to, stabilize its finances
Right.
and focus on innovation.
Jobs knew when to make a deal. And with the company back on solid footing,
Yeah.
he sets his sights on a new frontier.
Yeah.
Music.
In 2001, Apple unveiled the iPod,
Oh, yeah.
the sleek, portable music player
Mm-hmm.
that would change how we listen to music.
It wasn't the first MP3 player,
Right.
but it was the first to really get it right.
It was.
Seamlessly integrating with iTunes,
Right.
Apple's digital music store,
Yeah.
to create an ecosystem for buying and listening to music.
And Jobs even persuaded the music industry to come on board,
Wow.
which was no easy feat.
The iPod was a cultural phenomenon,
Oh, yeah.
more than just a gadget.
Definitely.
It was a fashion statement.
It was everywhere.
And with the introduction of the iTunes music store,
Yeah.
Apple reinvented the music industry.
They were selling an experience.
Yeah.
And to enhance that experience, they created the Apple stores,
Oh,
those sleek temples of technology.
The Apple stores weren't just retail spaces.
Right.
They were community hubs
Yeah.
where people could try out products, get help,
Yeah.
even attend workshops.
It was all part of Jobs' vision
Right.
of creating a complete Apple ecosystem.
But the biggest revolution was still to come.
2007, the iPhone.
Apple unveiled a device that would change the world. The iPhone?
It wasn't just a phone.
Oh.
It was a pocket computer, a music player, a camera, and so much more.
Its intuitive touch interface and design set a new standard for smartphones.
The iPhone was a game changer. It spawned countless imitators and transformed how we communicate, consume info, interact with the world.
Yeah.
And the innovations kept coming.
The App Store, the iPad, iCloud.
It seemed like Jobs and his team at Apple were unstoppable. But behind the scenes, a personal battle was raging.
In 2003, Jobs was diagnosed with pancreatic cancer.
Right.
He underwent surgery, took medical leaves, and fought to stay at the helm of his company.
His 2005 commencement speech at Stanford,
Oh, yeah.
where he urged graduates to stay hungry, stay foolish,
Right.
became a mantra for dreamers and entrepreneurs around the world. It was a deeply personal message,
Yeah.
reflecting Jobs' own journey
Mm-hmm.
and his belief in following your passions.
Sadly, Jobs' health deteriorated,
Yeah,
and he had to step down as CEO in 2011.
right.
He passed away just a few months later.
Leaving behind an incredible legacy.
Steve Jobs was a visionary, a showman, a demanding perfectionist.
He wasn't always easy to work with, but his passion, drive, and belief in technology changed the world.
He showed us that technology can be beautiful,
Yeah.
intuitive,
Mhm.
even magical.
Yeah.
He inspired generations of entrepreneurs and designers.
He
And
did.
his products continue to shape our lives today.
They do.
So what do you think? What's Steve Jobs' most enduring legacy?
It's his belief in the power of design. He understood that how a product looks and feels is just as important as what it does.
Yeah.
He made technology human, desirable, and ultimately a part of our everyday lives.
Well said. And that's it for our deep dive into the life and legacy of Steve Jobs, the genius who revolutionized technology. We hope you enjoyed it.
We did.
If you did, don't forget to subscribe to Xul Podcast, Shooting the Reality,
Yes.
and leave a comment below with your thoughts on Steve Jobs' impact on the world.
We love hearing from you.
And until next time, keep shooting the reality.
Keep shooting the reality.